How hard and expensive is it to play Yu-Gi-Oh! As a complete beginner? That is what I want to find out in this series. In this video, I go to a regional and pull an insane card. Since the last episode, I am going fairly regularly to my locals, at least once a month, which does not sound like a lot, but I am still in uni and working part-time. Also got a friend hooked to locals by playing the 2-player starter kit with him. I am telling you, this thing is goated. Kevin found a lot of cards from his playground times and knew I went to locals regularly, and after having a lot of fun with the starter kit, he bought the new Blue Eye structure deck. We were meeting up a few times, playing against each other with our decks, until he felt ready enough to come with me to his first local. In the first round of his first ever local, we were paired up against each other, which honestly broke the ice a bit and made him way less nervous because he could warm up and practice without any social pressure. He went 0-4, but at least he had a lot of fun. So much fun, in fact, that since then we regularly go together almost every second week. But honestly, we were pretty bad. Even after I bought the new Cyber Dragon support and I felt like my deck could compete with the meta decks, my skill and matchup knowledge was just so bad, and I did not want to invest in all of the non-engine everyone is playing. So sometimes I went 1-3 or 1-2 and even 2-2 once with one free win, but I never came close to winning any packs, which was my goal for all this time. Then the 300th YCS in Dortmund happened. When we found out about it, tickets for the main event were already sold out for like a month, so that was no option anyway. We also looked at our calendars and, well, on the Friday I had a uni exam, Saturday was Valentine's Day, and Sunday was my birthday, and I had some plans for both of these days. But we thought the venue was so close to where we live, we can just show up on Saturday noon and then leave a few hours later. So we did just that, and since we never attended such an event, we were surprised by what we saw. In the middle there were 8 card shops where you could buy sealed products, singles and accessories. Small PSA. We have heard from a lot of people that they offer horrendous deals, like 30% of the worth for their entry playmats and less than 50% for deck cores. These prices allegedly are so aggressive since a lot of people at the venue don't know or don't care about the worth of those, and also a lot of players at these events get really frustrated at their decks after practicing for weeks or sometimes even months just to get 0-3'd or 1-3'd, and then they impulsively sell their deck at any price they offer. Just keep an eye out and maybe take your stuff home with you, and if you really want to sell the playmat or the deck core, do so online or sell them to other players at your locals. Anyway, PSA over. There was a stage for the live duels you always see on stream, and the table with the commentators were so close it felt weird that you could like throw something at them and it would be reflected in the stream, but that also made it really cool. Then like 70% of the hall was just tables and chairs, and whenever a round just started, everyone was sitting and the shops, the food court and the stage seats were almost completely empty. On the other hand, right before time was called, until the next pairings were up, the shop and food areas were so crowded that you could barely walk through the area. It was very interesting seeing that. On the far side of the hall was the judge and info area where the public side event schedule was displayed, and we barely missed our chance to enter a 3 or 4 round Swiss side event, which would have fit our time budget, but oh well. Then there was an official Konami owned shop where you could buy items with points you gather for winning side events. After walking around and watching the event unfold, we bought a box of Justice Hunters to open together, and Kevin opened this incredibly beautiful looking K9 Ripper. Look at this beauty. This is everything we opened that is worth more than bulk, so not much, but we had fun opening the box, and I was thinking of trying K9 Cyber Dragon anyway, so it's fine. We finished the event by watching Joshua Schmidt's live duel from like 2 meters away, and then I even got to take a photo with him, and he signed one of my Fortress Dragons. Well, this was the first time I ever asked someone for a photo or an autograph, and I might have smeared the autograph with my sweaty hands. Yeah, this is so sad. But I got some nice pictures, and I mean, most of the signature is legible, it's fine. I'm fine. Yeah, after staying at the venue for a total of over 4 hours, we left. After going home, we talked about how nice the experience of attending such an event would be, but since this was the first YCS in Dortmund in 3 years, we were pretty pessimistic of such an opportunity arising again soon. Until 10 days after the YCS, when Josh said this in a video.
There is a regional happening at the Gamescom LAN event in Cologne on March 22nd.
I immediately looked up how much it costs, when exactly it was, how many people could attend, the prices and all of the info, and then messaged Kevin. In my message I said I'm not really sure if I wanted to attend, especially for 40 euros entry fee, and I was leaning towards no. 40 euro entry plus buying new cars and going to multiple locals to prepare is incredibly expensive, especially for a part-time working university student. So this is a great point to plug my Patreon. I just opened up a Patreon and I do not really know what to offer in there yet. For now, I will show the Patreon supporters during the end card of my videos, and I will post my video scripts there. So if you're interested or just want to support me, head on over and subscribe. I also opened up a Ko-fi, I don't know how you pronounce it, if you like that more. Alright, chill over. Kevin answered, I mean 40 euros for a tournament, plus packs, plus merch, and we can look at the fighting game event. Sounds pretty good to me. I don't know what it was, but after I read that message, I was completely hooked. I tried so hard to make this happen, but Kevin would say stuff like, I don't know, I still get cooked at locals at the moment, why would I attend a regional then? And I hit him with the, if we never practice and we never actively try to improve, how can we ever be ready for a regional? On the other hand, if we commit by paying 40 euros, we will for sure train and actively try to improve, which in turn will make us ready for a regional. But he still hit me with the, I don't know, I'm too bad I think. So we talked about what our goals and expectations would be, and they were pretty low, and what we would need to do to feel ready for a regional, and made out the following points. First, go over advanced rules like problem solving card text and the fast effect timing chart. Second, go to many locals. Third, buy a lot of non-engine. Fourth, practice outside of locals. So the next weekend we hopped on a call and went through the official PSCT and fast effect documentation, and I tried my best to explain all of it and give examples where needed. This helped me refresh my memory and really hone in some details and edge cases I never thought of, and it helped him understand those rules fairly quickly. Then after I found out that I for sure only had one exam until the regional and did not have to learn too much for that exam as well, we both agreed to commit to the regional. Immediately I put together a big list of cards that I needed, mainly a lot of non-engine, but I also found this amazing YouTube channel that I want to shout out called Azuki that only does content on high-level Cyber Dragon gameplay. I pretty much copied his decklist, since his combos put up more interruptions more consistently than my homebrew decklist. I then ordered over 70 cards, almost all of them being non-engine, just so I could spontaneously decide on what exactly to put in my side deck. Then I copied the deck as best as I could with what cards I had, which luckily meant I only needed to replace non-engine and had to play with a less consistent extra deck. With that deck, I played a lot of Master Duel, Omega Ranked, and Kevin and I tested against each other. Online and at locals, I quickly got the feeling that this version is like properly competitively viable. Not S tier, but strong enough to, with the right pilot, top an event. At locals, I very often went 2-2, even without 3 wins this time, and even with a lot of non-engine missing and me misplaying the new combos quite often. I was missing Ash, Fuva, Droll, Crossout, Bell, and almost everything else, and still finishing a match 1-2 or even sometimes 2-1 against Actual Canine, Fiendsmith Yami, Pure Mitsurugi and stuff like that. I knew I just needed to practice, learn the matchups, and hope my non-engine arrives in time. At the Friday, 2 days before the event, I finished up an exam, did some uni work, and then checked in the mail whether or not this big order from Greece with most of the best non-engine arrived, and it didn't. Now I am out of time and I'm still missing Ash, Fuva, Droll, Bell, and a lot of other non-engine. How do I want to compete? I cannot Ash Fuva, I cannot Crossout Fuva, I cannot hit decks with my own Fuva. I basically have to break through the entire tournament and through all the meta decks with just engine? That will not work. Kevin graciously walked around 2 different locals asking the shop owners and the players of the local he attended whether or not anyone would sell him Ash, Droll, Fuva, or Bell at least. At that evening he got a playset of Ash and Droll and even got ripped off a bit just for me, so at least I had Ash and Droll. I also owned Nip and Retaliating Sea, and Kevin lent me a playset of Vader as well, so this was not a great situation, but it could be worse. I still thought I would need at least 1 copy of Fuva, so I went to the local on the next day, determined to top the event and trade 1 copy of Mulchami Fuvalos. The local started at around noon, and because I was studying for my exam, I had not played or practiced Yu-Gi-Oh! In days. Still, I went 2-2 that local with 1 free win, but that day 2-2 did not yield any packs, so I never actually reached my goal of winning packs at locals before attending the regional. But I also had a different goal as well. I wanted to ask people if they had Fuva for trade or sale, but then I suddenly remembered I am incredibly shy and had so much social anxiety. My heart rate was at 3 digits, my palms were sweaty, and I was physically getting sick thinking about asking these people for before trading made my stomach turn and I thought I would throw up.
Mom spaghetti!
One player actually approached me if I was looking for anything, and I replied that I needed a Fuva and had basically nothing to trade with besides money. I wanted to buy 1 or 2 since I got 2 in mail and they are expensive, but he only wanted to sell me a playset and the price was a chunk above card market low. This was way too expensive for me and also not that great of a deal anyway, so with an incredibly fast racing heart I said that I need time to think about the deal and he said, alright, no problem. Over the course of the local he asked me a few more times whether or not I wanted to trade, but at that point I had the courage to say no, thank you. Over the course of the first 2 hours of the local I gathered up all my courage to ask the store owner whether or not he had any Fuvalos for sale, but he sadly did not. I then got into a longer casual conversation with my opponent from round 1 and eventually built up the courage to ask him, but he did not have an extra copy either. I then asked the 2 regulars that I've seen like 20 times, but they did not have copies either at the moment. At that point I had done enough exposure therapy that I only needed just a few minutes of build up to ask anyone for a copy of Fuva, but not a single person had 1 extra copy. I had already given up and just played through the local. After finishing the last round, I was watching the last duel of the evening when the store owner suddenly spawned and exclaimed, "Who wanted a Fuvalos?" I shot up, walked with him and he said, "How many?" And I was so prepared for him to deny to sell me anything less than a playset, but when I said 1 or maybe 2, he said, alright. He then showed me 2 ultra rare copies and 1 super rare copy, 10 euros for the ultras, 8 for the super. I can only buy 1 or 2 this time and this is my last chance, so I bought just the 1 super rare and went home fairly accomplished. I was a bit sad that 2-2 was not enough for a pack this time, but at least I got some experience against some meta decks. I got exposure therapy for my social anxiety and I acquired 1 singular copy of Fuvalos. The evening before the tournament, I made sure my decklist was up to date. I re-sleeved all of my cards with these nice Dragon Shield soul sleeves. On the left you see the dual matte soul sleeves and on the right you see the matte purple ones. You see how it is black at the front instead of purple? That is the only difference. Oh, and also the price tag. Anyway, I packed this backpack that I just bought to be my dedicated Yu-Gi-Oh bag, took some melatonin because I had to wake up in 7 hours and was not tired in the slightest, and went to sleep. The morning was calm. I got ready, Kevin picked me up and we drove to the venue in Cologne. Instead of practicing my combos during the ride, remember, I did not practice anything for like 5 days and was still misplaying my combos even if uninterrupted. Instead of practicing my combos during the ride, I tried to brute force this lock that I accidentally set to a random code. I wanted to use that for my backpack, but ended up not using it anyway, and figuring out the code took the entire over 1 hour ride. We arrived very early and I thought, alright, at least I can practice some combos before the event starts. But we were so lost on where to park and where the venue was that I did not have time for that as well. When we finally entered the venue, we sat down and not very long after, pairings for round 1 were released, so the tournament started really quickly. I actually won my first match. It was a very grindy match against some sort of trap hole deck that just placed a lot of very annoying traps that do not let me play. I then proceeded to lose very close and very grindy matches 1-2 every single time, losing to a small misplay or due to siding the wrong cards, like Retaliating Sea against Wanker Soul Canine for some reason. I was very blindsided by so many people playing variants of Gem Knights, since I did not see this deck at locals nor online, so I was not prepared to be sent second at all and to be hit with a lot of board breakers before being OTK'd. One of those matches was so brutal that I lost 0-2 without having any chance. But then in round 6 I got a free win. This one immediately after pairings were published showed up as you won, so I knew the opponent would not come and I did not even take out my deck. Also I was seated next to Kevin so I could watch his match while waiting for a judge and then leave for the toilet and watch some Smash tournaments at the venue. Side note, the Smash tournament was commentated and had a big stage and the viewers were celebrating so incredibly loud. It was really awesome. After 1 hour of doing barely anything, but at least watching Kevin play and talking to his opponent after the duels, the next pairing gets published and I go to my table, take out my cards, shuffle them like 30 or so times until the round starts and my opponent is nowhere to be seen. I ask a judge what to do and he says after 3 minutes he gets a game loss and 7 minutes after that, so after a total of 10 minutes, you win the match. Call me when 3 minutes have passed. And so I just sit there, literally watching the timer count down second by second, incredibly bored and just waiting for 3 minutes to pass. After 3 long minutes, I call a judge and confirm the procedure should he appear now, and then continued my wait. This was like watching paint dry. I thought I was dying. This was the most draining 10 minutes of my life. Why did I not play a game on my phone or watch some videos, you ask? First, I did not bring any headphones. Second, I thought I needed to be attentive. I was still in the middle of a round, and until the judges declare me the match winner, I did not want to break any rules by, for example, being on the phone and watching some videos or playing some games. But I have to say, those 10 minutes drained every single ounce of energy I had and killed my motivation and fun. After 10 very long minutes, a judge spawned on their own and told me I could enter the win right now and leave, so I did, but where to? Kevin was still playing and I could not sit next to him, so I just sat at an empty table and thought, man, what should I do for 40 more minutes? Again, I had no headphones, no game I wanted to play on my phone besides Master Duel, I guess. I just sat there, messaged some people on WhatsApp and I just waited. Incredibly boring and draining 40 minutes followed. Next time I go to a long tournament, I will 100% bring headphones and prepare a game on my phone to play whenever I get a free win, because after 2 hours of doing nothing, I was so exhausted and I was so out of the game. When the last round started, I had forgotten all of the combos and I could not think straight. I still won the second duel, and in the third duel I actually drew Fuvalos for the first time in my entire life, and it actually resolved. I drew until I had 10 cards, even nipped his board at one point, and when it was my turn, I was 100% confident I would walk out of the tournament with a 4-4 score. I then proceeded to make a series of the worst misplays I have ever done in my entire life in any game. This was a chain of the most stupid decisions of my entire life. He had the Naturia Beast on field and explained his entire board, and here's the reason why above locals you never explain any card the opponent can read themselves. Just let them read your card on their own. He told me what all of the cards on his field do, but he never said Naturia Beast's spell negate was not once per turn. And since he never said if any effect was once per turn or not, and every other effect was once per turn, I assumed it would be the same here. I assumed Naturia Beast was once per turn. I asked whether it negates the activation or effect, and he said activation, so I looked at the Cyberdark Realm I had in hand and the Cyberdark Claw and activated the Realm. He negated it. I activated Claw, got a second Realm, activated that one, and he negates it again. Is it not once per turn? Nope. I then take the card, read it, and then read Ash Blossom, and I think to myself, I need to get another Realm somehow, and when he tries to negate it, I will Ash it. I then use up most of my hand to get another copy of Realm, and when he negates it, I chain Ash, but he says this mills for cost, you cannot Ash it. And I die on the inside. I somehow got to the point of summoning Nova to summon Infinity to suck up the Naturia Beast, but he bounced my Nova. Afterwards, I realized I had Imperm in hand and an empty board, so I Impermed the card and just said I should have done this way sooner. We were then discussing it a bit. He said I could not do that sooner because I had Nip on board. He misremembered that he destroyed my Nip pretty early on in the turn, and for whatever reason I decided to summon OG and go for Nova instead of using my Imperm. So yeah, I lost that duel. I feel so incredibly dumb, since if I Impermed his Naturia Beast earlier, I had like 5 different lines to OTK him this turn in my hand, but I fumbled it so incredibly hard. This was the last turn in the last duel in the last match of the day. I was thinking about it in bed and couldn't sleep for a few hours, but yeah, besides that and the 2 free rounds, this was a very fun experience. All my and Kevin's opponents were extremely kind and friendly, even when we called a judge, which happened every round to me, by the way. The judges, my opponent, and the entire interactions were very calm, civil, and not at all toxic. I expected that any judge call would lead to both players hating each other, but most of the time it was, I'm not really sure if it works like that, let's just call a judge.
What did it cost?
So, let's look at the decklist and all the cards and accessories I bought for this tournament, and then open the packs we got. As I said, the decklist is mostly copied from Azuki's videos, and I also took his combos mostly 1-to-1. For non-engine, I went by the example of Azuki and Joshua Schmidt's non-engine tier list, but since I did not own every card, I couldn't put in every card, so this was my exact decklist for the tournament. So this was the deck I attended the regional with, 40 cards in main, 15 extra, 15 side. The main deck consisted of 13 non-engine and 27 engine cards, so let's start with the engine cards. In this deck we played 3 copies of Cyber Dragon Core and 3 copies of Cyber Emergency, mainly to search for core. We play 3 copies of Realm and 3 copies of Cyber Dark Claw to search Realm, and this is a new addition. You remember me only playing 1 Realm because I can search it with core, but Cyber Dark Realm can be a 1-card starter that gets me almost exactly the same board as Cyber Dragon Core, so this is a very important card as a 1-card starter, and this is a very important extender, so it's obvious to play 3 of those and then 3 core to search it. I then played 3 copies of Cybernetic Horizon. This is another new starter. This is a 2-card starter. You need this card and another Cyber Monster in hand, and then you can send the Cyber Monster from hand and 1 Cyber Monster from a deck with a different attribute to the grave, then add 1 Cyber Monster from deck to hand, and then send 1 extra deck Fusion Monster to the grave. But you are locked to machines for the entire turn when using this, so you cannot summon SP in the turn that you have used it. Even if you first summon SP, you can then not activate the spell card. You can search Horizon Horizon with Claw as well if you need to. Horizon is really important to set up a board through Droll, because if this is the first card you activate and you get then Drolled, you at least have 2 cards in grave and 1 in hand to set up some disruption instead of none at all. Also, if uninterrupted, the board's Horizon sets up are slightly stronger than the board's Core or Realm will set up. We then play 1 copy of Cyberdark Chimera. This can be a 1-card starter, but the board that it will set up really is worse compared to the other 1-card starters. But this is a really important extender, but we don't want to draw multiples of it. We don't want to draw it at all, preferably, so just 1 copy. This will get us 1 copy of Power Bond. When Cyberdark Chimera gets sent from the field to the grave, for example by a link summoning, I can send from the deck 1 other Cyberdark monster to the grave. And most of the time this will be the quote-unquote new support card, Cyberdark Worm. When Cyberdark Worm is in your hand or grave, you can send 1 other Cyber Dragon monster from the deck to the grave, for example Hertz, and then you can special summon Worm, and then you can re-add 1 Cyber spell from the grave to the hand. This is a once per duel effect, sadly, but this is incredibly strong since this is called Cyber Dragon in deck or grave. This is a level 5 monster. I can get a free card to discard for Clockwork Knight, which I will soon explain. Then we play some Cyber Dragon names. We play 1 copy of OG, 1 copy of Hertz, most of the time to grab OG, but sometimes to grab a core from grave, or for example a Nexstar. Speaking of which, we play 1 copy of Nexstar because we can summon a free body from grave. Most of the time this will be this new support card Yorm, or Cyber Jormungandr. Importantly, this is also a level 5 monster, so we can go into a rank 5. Sadly, this is not a Cyber Dragon monster, nor is it called Cyber Dragon on field and grave, but it is a light machine, so you can send it with Rampage Dragon. This card has 2 effects. First one lets you special it from hand, and then special an OG specifically from deck as well. And if you have both in hand, then you cannot activate that effect. That is not the important effect, but it does come up sometimes. The second effect is what's important. You can bounce 1 Cyber Dragon from field to hand, and then add Polymerization from grave or deck. Speaking of Poly, Yorm will grab me 1 copy of Poly. We then play 1 very nice looking secret rare copy of Regulus, which is just a Omni Negate on field, and 1 copy of Clockwork Knight to search Regulus. The effect of Clockwork Knight to search for Regulus is that you can banish Clockwork Knight from the grave and then discard 1 card to add an Earth Machine, which Regulus is. And to this card, we usually use the Cyber spell that Worm added us back to hand when we summoned it. We then play 1 copy of Cybernetic Overflow. This card has 2 effects as well. The first effect is the proper trap effect when you set it and you pass turn, and it is banish Cyber Dragons with different levels from hand, field and or graveyard, and then destroy an equal number of the opponent's cards. Very strong disruption. The second effect is if this card on the field is destroyed by card effect, it has the same effect as Core and can add me a Cyber spell or trap, which could be Realm, which could be Cybernetic Horizon, Cyber Emergency, but most of the time will be Cyberlord Fusion, which I will explain shortly. You can trigger the second effect by just setting the card and then summoning Rampage Dragon to pop this card ourselves, and if we still want to set it for passing turn, we can re-add it with Worm if we can discard something else for Clockwork Knight, for example. Very, very strong card. Cyberlord Fusion is back in the deck just because we can search it with either Core or Overflow. What I didn't really consider for going into rank 5 monsters is you could use Chimera's effect to add Power Bond, then with Power Bond banish 2 Cyber Dragon monsters from the grave to summon out 1 Rampage Dragon. Then you can use Cyberlord Fusion to shuffle both of them back to the deck to summon out the second copy of Rampage Dragon, and then you already have a rank 5. When going second, I mostly sided out Cyberlord Fusion because the side effect is really detrimental to OTKing the opponent. But yeah, this is 27 cards of engine. These are 16 starters, 15 very strong starters, 12 of which are 1-card starters, 3 2-card starters, and 1 kinda bad 1-card starter. All of the other 11 cards we do not want to draw, but most of the time it's not that big of a problem if we draw them. Some of them could even be beneficial if we draw them and we play through some kind of interruption. These are not hard bricks, except for example, Powerbot is a really bad brick in most cases, since we cannot banish from grave for fusion summoning if we don't use Chimera's effect to add Power Bond, and if we have it in hand we cannot add it. But the other cards are, we would rather not draw them and just draw another starter or some non-engine, but if we do, we are not screwed at all. But yeah, we also played 13 non-engine cards. These were 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. You know, in the last episodes I've only played board breakers, and I love board breakers as an approach. This version of Cyber Dragon is so strong going first that you really have to play it going first in most cases, so I had to really consider hand traps instead of board breakers this time, and Ash Blossom is by far the strongest board breaker, I think. We then played 3 copy of Imperm, we played 2 copies of Droll and Lockbird, at least 1 copy to cross out it, because we can play through Droll with Cybernetic Horizon, but we would rather not. I Hope it gets banned soon, by the way. We then play 1 copy of Retaliating Sea. This card does not come up in some decks, but in other decks it's a very, very strong disruption, but I just didn't have another strong non-engine card to put here. 1 copy of Fuvalos. If I had 2 Fuvalos, I would put a second copy here instead of Retaliating Sea. I needed at least 1 copy for Crossout, and Fuvalos also incredibly strong card. Yeah, I've said it multiple times. Here is a very, very beautiful collector's rare, Crossout Designator. Very important card for playing through hand traps, same with Caught by the Grave. Then we have 1 copy of Triple Tactics Talent to help us play further into disruptions, so going first play through hand traps and going second play through the board. But yeah, 13 non-engine is fine. I drew at least one of them most of the duels. I would like to play more. I will put a second Fuvalos here instead of the Retaliating, and Azuki even recommended in the last video to play a third Fuva and go through 41 cards, just because Fuva is that strong. But yeah, that's it for the main deck. Let's look at the extra deck. First up, we have Cyber Eternity Dragon. Most of the effects barely come up in actual duels. Most of the time we just use this as a target for Cybernetic Horizon to send from the extra deck to the grave. Then we play 3 copies of Rampage Dragon. 3 copies because we summon Rampage Dragon a lot for going to rank 5, and if we use 2 of them to go into a rank 5 and we then go into a turn 3 where we want to OTK our opponent, we need a third one to OTK our opponent. 1 Fortress Dragon and 1 Mega Fleet Dragon for breaking the board when it comes up. Then we have 1 copy of Chaos Varrock. You can special this with 2 light machines, for example Yorm and Nesta, and on summon you have to trigger the effect on summon, which is so annoying because I forgot that like a few times in the regional and a lot of times in the locals. On summon you have to trigger the effect that in the next standby phase you can grab 1 fusion spell from the grave. So if you use Power Bond or Poly, you can special Chaos, activate its effect, and in the next standby phase you can grab Power Bond or Poly again. Incredibly important effect for follow-up and for OTKing the opponent in turn 3, and you have to remember to do that. Otherwise, on field this is a spell trap negate by either banishing itself or banishing 2 light machines from the grave. Then we have 1 copy of Zeus, did not come up once, not a single time. 1 copy of Nova goes into 1 copy of Infinity. 1 copy of Vimana. In some combos we can go into a second rank 5, and Vimana is a monster negate. Sadly, this is better than the Canine Ripper that we pulled in Collector's Rare. For links we have 2 copies of Clockwork Knight, bumped up to a second copy because in some grind games or when the opponent uses disruption it can come up that you need a second copy. 1 copy of SP. You cannot summon this in a turn where you used Cybernetic Horizon. You also cannot summon this after using Nesta and after using, I think it's Yorm. But Nesta and Yorm machine lock you for the rest of the turn. Horizon machine locks you for the entire turn, so you cannot use first Horizon then SP, and you cannot use first SP then Horizon. 1 copy of Seeker. When the Legendary Modern Dex comes out, I will buy 1 of them and then replace Zeus with an Azalea. Now going through the side deck, 3 copies of Nibiru, just because I didn't have anything else to put there. I would have probably put Bell in the side deck as well, but I didn't have Bell at the time. 2 more copies of Retaliating Sea, because some decks really get destroyed by Retaliating Sea. Some board breakers. We have 1 copy of Duster. We have 1 copy of Lightning Storm, because I only own 1 copy. We then have 1 copy of Jizukiru and 1 copy of Cyber Repair Plant, because we can search Cyber Repair Plant with Cybernetic Overflow or Core, and then we can search Jizukiru with Repair Plant to have 1 searchable Kaiju. I did not cite this in at all. 3 copies of Triple Tactics Thrust. Really, really strong card going second. You can add 1 normal spell from the deck to the hand, which could be Duster, could be Lightning Storm, Repair Plant, Triple Tactics Talent, Cyber Emergency, Cybernetic Horizon, Power Bond, Poly. Very, very strong going second card. For going first, we just have 3 copies of Solemn Warning in Super, Ultra, and Quarter Century Secret Rare. I pulled this myself from Rarity Collection from some packs that I got as a birthday gift. So yeah, this was my regional deck. As I said, I went 3-5 with 2 free wins, but all of the matches except for 1 were really close. In every round except for the 1 round, there was a very, very grindy third game that I then very closely lost. So this deck is really strong. I love this a lot. Big shout out to Azuki for providing so much detailed descriptions for just Cyber Dragons alone and providing such a strong deck list. Discussions like blind first over blind second or playing pure over K9. If you have any questions about this deck list or if you want to see more Cyber Dragon stuff, please check out his channel. On screen you will now see my other intermediate deck lists for the locals together with the results of that local. I also bought some new sleeves, this backpack and all of the new cards, totaling to this amount alone for prep for this tournament. Oh yeah, and I had to pay for locals as well. That was this much. So this is the total for prep for this tournament alone. This is the serious total, but this does not include the 20 or so locals I attended since last episode, but before the training arc for the regional. Prepping for this regional was incredibly expensive, especially for a part-time working university student, so this is a great point to plug my Patreon. Speaking of paying my Yu-Gi-Oh bills, let's open the packs. So, we have 8 packs of Burst Protocol in German, sadly. I would rather them in English, but it's fine, it's fine. But let's see, let's crack open the first pack. What does Team Samurai X do? I mean, they smell barely like anything. Is there a deck trick? I think it's the 4th card. I think you are doing 3 cards to the front. I think that's what you do. Okay, Dark Lord Dance. Oh, a yummy card. What the hell is that card? That's some weird flip support. Yeah, okay. I mean, these are just some random S commons. Okay. Oh. Okay, I did the deck trick wrong. I need to put 4 cards to the front. A secret rare? The first pack, 3 or 4 euros. Yeah, yeah. It's alright, it's alright. And that's the super rare. Okay. My default thinking is there is no super rare worth anything. From what I have heard, there are very little super rares that are worth like anything at all. And Elf Note Fortuna. Also a super. Since these are loose packs, I don't have an idea about what ratios to expect. If it was a box, then I could say like there would be only 1 secret. But since this was loose packs, I don't really know what to expect. That's an ultra. It's like 20 cents. Damn. This is like, yeah, almost 3 euros as well. Alright. A super. And this is another Boral Dragon. The last pack. Let's see if we can get another ultra or secret. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. This is... Oh, damn. Oh, damn. Oh, damn. I think that is a pretty good one. Holy. I think that is a pretty decent one. I think I looked up that card because I wanted to order it if it wasn't that expensive, but I think it was very expensive. So let's leave it up. Damn. 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 Forbidden Crown, this is not a secret rare, this is a Starlight rare. Forbidden Crown. Holy. Is it a Starlight rare? What is it? What is the rarity? This is a Starlight rare, right? This one goes for like almost 80 euros. Holy. Holy shit. Holy, that is crazy. In the last pack. Damn. Damn. Holy. Damn. Alright, I mean, decent pack opening if I have to say so myself. Damn. That's so crazy. Yeah, so this pays for the regional entry and most of the locals we went to for the training arc, or this pays for all of the cards that I bought. Either way, this was huge and I did not expect to pull anything above 2 euros at all. Yeah, I think this card is incredibly beautiful and it has like a bit of sentimental value that I pulled it from my first ever regional, but it's expensive enough that I am actively trying to sell it right now. But yeah. The next video that I'm cooking up is also a Yu-Gi-Oh video, so if you like this video, please subscribe to not miss the next one. But until then, ciao, Leute.